Hello, I'm Alex Rakes and I'm the Safer Bristol advocate for VOSCA, and I'm reporting to you on the 4th of June meeting, which was the latest meeting that was held, and the highlights of that meeting, the key things you should be aware of. Everything I'm going to talk to you about will be quite brief, so you can talk to Peter Anderson, who's in charge of Safer Bristol, or you can come to myself for more information. So the most important things are, firstly, there was the refreshed Safer Bristol partnership reporting structure that has now been approved. Quite a simple structure, but it shows you clearly what Safer Bristol Executive oversees: the Safeguarding Adults Board, Safeguarding Children's Board, Youth Offending Board, and then under here you've got Building the Bridge, Impact and Reducing Reoffending Board, Strategic Partnership Against Hate Crime, Domestic Violence and Sexual Violence Strategy Group, Substance Misuse Treatment Joint Commissioning Group, and Restorative Bristol Board. So that's the structure that's now been approved. And the other thing I really want to highlight for you is they've just approved their draft work plan for the whole of this financial year. So I'm going to take you through the key points in that work plan, which again, only very briefly. So if you want more information about any area, you can talk to me or to Safer Bristol themselves. So first of all, they talked about restorative approaches. That's a big part of the work plan. They oversee a Restorative Bristol Board, and that's all about restorative justice. So there's a plan to carry on doing work in that field, but with less funding and no sort of person completely committed to it. The second area of the work plan is around coercion and exploitation, and that actually oversees the prevent work, which is all around tackling extremism and extreme ideologies and radicalisation. It oversees domestic and sexual violence and abuse, which includes child sexual exploitation, forced marriage and human trafficking. So there's a lot of actions under that area. The next bit of the action plan is reoffending and first-time entrants, with quite a big focus on young offenders. The next bit of the action plan is around a lot of work going on around vulnerability. That's an area that's on everybody's tongues at the moment, particularly after Bijan Ibrahimi's murder, but also just it's across government priority is looking at people who are vulnerable and tackling crime, focusing on people's vulnerabilities. So Bristol City Council and Safer Bristol are going to be doing a cross-partner review to identify the most vulnerable service users across the city. So all agencies are combined looking together at who are the most vulnerable people in the city we've got to watch out for and look after, really on the back of Ibrahimi case, to make sure that they're properly monitored. And they want to use more predictive analytics, and that's around getting all your data, crunching it and predicting what do we need to be looking out for in the future. And also under that strand, they're going to be commissioning hate crime services, which are due up in 2 years' time. So they're starting to plan for that. The fifth part of the work plan is around priority neighbourhoods, and there's a big focus on tackling antisocial behaviour, crime prevention and tackling deprivation, and each neighbourhood has its own priorities onto those areas. So and they each have a neighbourhood delivery group as well. The sixth area is around reducing harm from drugs and alcohol. So those are the 6 key areas that the work plan, which is here, is going to be focusing on, and obviously there's things within each of those areas for you to know about. So also Safer Bristol reports on crime trends, and for you to be aware of, overall antisocial behaviour has still got a bit of a downward trend, but violent crime, including hate crime in particular, are on the rise. General violent crime is slowly on the rise, and hate crime had a massive rise last year. And then the other thing that's really interesting is they're really trying to better identify vulnerable victims and people who are persistently targeted, intimidated, people with mental health needs, people with physical disabilities. And what you'll notice from the crime figures is they've just literally soared. So the number of people perceived to be persistently targeted went from 4 in 2013 to 14 to 465 last year. And the number of people perceived to have mental health needs who are being targeted went from 253 to 501. And that's not necessarily because there's more such people in the system. It might be, but a lot of it's to do with the criminal justice agencies trying to identify those people because they're more in need. We also looked at the Conservative manifesto, Community Safety Manifesto, and they've got a manifesto and they've got all these areas of focus, which is basically this government's focus, its manifesto on tackling crime, big focus on cybercrime, mental health, closer working between fire and rescue. There's a whole load of things to look at under that manifesto. We had an update on the community trigger, That went live last October. We've had 14 triggers since between October to May, of which 11 met the threshold and 6 went on to lead to recommendations for improvement. Community trigger, you may want to know more, again, talk to me or talk to Stuart Patterson, he's the Antisocial Behaviour Lead for the city. And we had the Queen's Speech 2015, which outlined all sorts of new bills and planned legislation changes, and for Safer Bristol they siphoned off the things relevant to crime and community safety. And again, there's a lot of key areas there. Noteworthy for me was the fact that they're bringing in a psychoactive substances bill for those drugs and substances that are not recognised formally as illegal, but they're banning the production of unknown, untested, potentially harmful substances and bringing in laws around that. So those are the kind of headlines from Safer Bristol. Each of those areas has a lot more to say, but do come to me and talk to me more. The next meeting is the 10th of September, so I'll be reporting back soon after that one. Thank you.